welcome to a very special Justice tonight. A look back at President Trump's year and a look forward to 2019 and beyond. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks so much for being with us. And it is our first ever Justice with a studio audience, and I couldn't be more excited. I think they are too. I know, because I spoke with them. And they're going to be taking part and asking questions throughout the show. Plus, if you'd like to take part at home, tweet your comments at Judge Jeanine. Now, we have a fantastic lineup of all-star guests tonight. We'll surprise you every block, and you can't miss a moment of it. So let's bring out my first guest. He's fought tirelessly in Congress for the American people over the last 18 years. A big welcome for my friend and, of course, yours, Congressman Darrell Issa. Good evening, Congressman.
Good evening, Judge.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good to see you. All right, so here we are, almost the end of the year. You're finishing up 18 years in Congress. I have been dying to ask you this question. What can you tell us that you couldn't tell us before? What frustrated you the most? What did you have to do in order to stay in Congress that frustrated you?
Well, those are several great questions. The one that I think listeners would not be surprised, or viewers would not be surprised, but that really does burn me, is the difference between what people say on the campaign trail and what they do in my party. In other words, we want to end the death tax. No, they don't. They just don't want to pay it themselves. We want to lower taxes. No, we really just want to lower taxes on ourselves. There's a tremendous amount of self-serving there. And you see it in the negotiations for principled solutions versus what actually gets negotiated. It's one of the reasons that so many of these tax deals are temporary. It's one of the things that's exciting about part of the president's tax reform, which is it's permanent.
Well, you know, when you talk like that, I say to myself, you know, we expect loyalty to party, right? And I understand it. I understand you have to be with your party to make sure you get your agenda done. But sometimes, as I look at Paul Ryan, as I look at what happened with some of the committees, and Paul Ryan not being willing, you know, to kind of hit the button on a lot of stuff going on with respect to Comey, and, you know, we saw at the end of December, you know, James Comey comes and testifies at a House, before House committees. Right. It's way too late. Nothing can be done. I wonder if they really believe in what they're saying or if it's just theater to them.
Well, you know, in Congress, there's always somebody who really believes it, and then there's the rest of the Congress. And certainly, this latest thing with bringing in Comey really is an example of too little, too late. On the other hand, there are things that are still being worked on as we get to the end of the Congress. And one of them, for example, it's pretty technical, but it's some of the immigration reform stuff that has broad support that actually still could get done, that the president has talked about and asked for, these high-tech immigrant, the H-1Bs
right.
and so on.
We'll talk about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are areas where we could still get it done, but there's always sort of the people who wanted to wait. We'll do it later. We'll do it later.
But how does it
tell you, if we had done more, we'd have been better treated by the voters. There's no question at all that not living up to the president's agenda, not living up to his aspirations, has cost the House of Representatives its majority.
Well, no question about that. And we're going to talk about that. But right now, I'm going to bring out some new guests. Congressman Issa, stay there. Our next two guests are real players responsible for helping to get Donald Trump elected. They're the authors of the new book, Trump's Enemies. Trump's former campaign manager, former director, deputy campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski and David Bossie are both here. Hi, guys.
Hi, Judge.
How are you?
Good to see you.
Great to see you. Hello. How are you?
Long time no see.
All right. So, listen, guys, you got a great new book out, and I'm not going to talk about it right now.
Thanks, Judge.
What I want to talk about...
Where is it on the bestsellers list?
It's on the New York Times bestseller list, so we're very happy.
Congratulations.
It may be fake news, but it's our fake news.
Yeah, I know. And you know what? Now I feel like I'm part of your club. But listen, you know, what the congressman and I didn't have time to talk about, I want to talk to you guys about is the economy. We saw the GDP in 2018 hit record highs, but then it started to falter a little bit at the end of the year. You know, unemployment has stayed pretty good at 3.7%, but there was some volatility in the stock market that we saw, in mid-December. What's going on, and what can the president do to make sure that he can continue to deliver on the message that apparently the House couldn't deliver on? Corey.
Well, I think part of it is, as you know, this president has focused American trade policy on renegotiating bad trade deals. When you look at what he's done between Canada and Mexico and the United States, getting rid of NAFTA and renegotiating that's a positive. But you also have to think about what he did with President Xi of China. Said, we're going to put a temporary stay on putting more tariffs on you.
Right.
And that was supposed to bring the market to these amazing numbers. And for a period, the market was up over a 3-day period, the highest it's been in 6 years. So the market responded, but it's very fickle. And now what we're seeing, Judge, over the last 2 or 3 or 4 weeks is every time the market goes down, whether it's 10 points or 50 points, they're now blaming the president. Unlike for all those times where it set record highs under his administration.
It was never the president who did it. It was
him.
Barack Obama.
It was Barack Obama who built this, right?
Maybe I'm wrong. Am I wrong? Did Barack Obama build it?
No, Barack Obama destroyed our economy. This president's taken the last 2 years to build it up, whether it's bringing manufacturing jobs back, whether it is the energy sector, whether it is renegotiating these bad trade deals. I think there's a lot of uncertainty out there in the markets. And I'm not an economist, but I'm a political guy. And I look at the investigations that are about to beset this president and this White House. You are going to see a White House that is going to be under siege by the Democrat-controlled House here very shortly. And you're going to see a White House that is naturally going to constrict in its ability to get a legislative agenda through, as well as other priorities on the economy.
Let me
a
ask
big
you
deal.
this, Congressman. I mean, the House couldn't do what it might have done.
It didn't do.
Why?
Well, because the House is known for passing things and then letting the Senate fail to do it. This time there were a lot of things we didn't pass. We didn't even send them to the Senate that the president wanted.
The economy's so good. Why didn't Republicans win and keep the House?
And the economy is an interesting and fickle thing. In a good economy, a lot of Republicans don't get real excited and turn out. Democrats, looking at Donald Trump and despising him, did turn out. But, one of the things about the economy, some people score the economy based on, 3.7% unemployment and so on. How about we score it like it was the real battle that it is between us and the Chinese? Last quarter, Chinese, 1.3% growth. Less than 2 months ago, I was at the World Economic Forum in China. Company after company told me about their leaving China. They're building their new factory in Vietnam or South Korea.
Oh, boy.
The fact
Not
is,
here. I was hoping you were say the U.S.
No, a lot are being built in the U.S., and we see those every day, but we don't see what's moving out of China just to move out of China. What China is dealing with is we're in this so-called war. And we're winning it. Yes, we're growing at X rate, but China has decelerated from its typical over 10% to 1.3%. They are in a free fall.
All right. What I'm going to do right now is I know we have a question from our audience, and I believe, sir, Ernie, I'll just call you Ernie. You're Ernie, right? I'm Ernie. All right, Ernie. Ernie's question is, what does the situation with China mean for the economy, and could things get worse?
Well, I think I just gave you a part of that. China is in a free fall. China still has more than 500 million people they're trying to get modern 21st century jobs for, and they don't have a way to get it, and the rest of the world is starting to eat their lunch, and they have an inflation problem, and quite frankly, they've gone back to being a communist dictatorship. So that's where China is. What does it mean for us? It means that we're going to have a more diverse group of vendors for the United States. Our partnership with Canada, our partnership with Mexico, renegotiated under this president, is going to grow.
All right. And I think you had an additional question?
Yes. And the additional question, and what will that do? What will that effect be on our elections coming up in 2020?
Well, look, as it relates to China, you have to think they're now agreeing to open their markets to our agriculture products because of the sit-down conversation that President Trump had with President Xi. They have blocked us from putting our exports there for a long time because they didn't want to compete against the United States. But that renegotiation is Everything is witnessed at the ballot box. When people are doing well, they have to ask themselves a very simple question, which was asked under the Clinton administration and the Obama administration for a re-election effort. Am I better off today than I was 2 or 4 years ago? When you look at economic security, you look at homeland security, and you look at national security, every economic indicator of those issues says, yes, we are stronger today under the Trump administration than we were 2 years ago,
right,
which bodes very well for a re-election campaign.
And Judge, if I could, just one more thing is, in that conversation with President Xi, President Trump asked the Chinese president to take a stand on the opioid issue.
Yes.
And that is that potentially 2 years from now, not today, but 2 years from now, is going to be able to help us rein this tragedy in that is going on in this country. And I think that the American people hopefully will see the fruits of that labor as well.
All right. And now I believe we have another question from the audience.
Yes. Recently, I've seen a lot of headlines that the economy is just dropping, the stock market's crashing. It's been very worrying to me, and I'm wondering, could we be headed for another recession?
Look, I'm not an economist, and I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, so I'm just going to give you my ideas. But the truth is, I don't think so, because every economic indicator is showing that we're still expanding. Our economy is growing. It's not receding. We have to be very cautious of the Federal Reserve continuing to raise interest rates. It's something the president's been very candid about. He's been very vocal about it. We have to understand people are finally having more money in their pockets for the first time in literally a decade. Under the Bush and then the Obama economy, people didn't have job opportunities, and not just the new jobs, but what you're seeing in our economy right now is people who have jobs have opportunities to move to other places that didn't exist because the deregulation that this president has impacted in our environment, which means more economic opportunities for everybody.
Go ahead,
and I'd love to find a way to get the millennials to get into the housing market, right? That's one of the soft spots that we see in the economy coming up in the next several quarters, is that we see with the interest rates going up, the millennials have to understand and want to participate in that American dream.
Right.
That
we're going to talk about that,
for 200
David.
years has always been a bedrock of our economy.
Yeah, we're going to talk about millennials in just a few minutes, but Corey Lewandowski, David Bossie will both be back in a few minutes, and Congressman Issa is staying to tackle our next topic.
I walked across.
Welcome back to our Justice Special. Immigration, the crisis at the southern border, a key issue for the Trump administration this year. It will certainly continue to be in 2019. Congressman Darrell Issa is still with us to weigh in. But first, let's bring in our surprise guest. Hear it for the one and only Florida Attorney General, Pam Tommy.
Hi, my friend.
Good to see you.
You
look fabulous.
Thank you.
All right, Attorney General, my partner in crime. We're on the
between the law.
Yeah. But you make the law. You write the law. Okay, for a few more weeks anyway. All right, Pam, we want to talk about Madam Attorney General. For a few more weeks anyway. All right, Madam Attorney General, America is split on this issue of immigration, and as we go into the next segment with a couple of new guests that I'm not going to mention to you, we're going to talk about young people and how they view it. But the truth is that this president has been getting a beating on immigration and the border issue, starting with the separation of kids from family members. Can you just tell our viewers in just a few sentences what required that, and what has he done to change it?
Well, initially, the president never wanted to separate children from their parents. It was a security issue. That's been changed. That's all been corrected. And we all know he deeply cares about children. And now, more than ever in this world, securing our borders is so important. It's absolutely critical. That's why it's called Homeland Security. It's our homeland.
And in truth, when President Obama separated parents and children, it was because the law required that he do that. That if you're going to have a child more than 20 days, you've got to, you may be keeping the parents, but you let the child, go into wherever they have them go. And that was something the president ended, correct?
Well, and of course, under both presidents, you always had the question of just because somebody says it's their child doesn't mean it is. And we found time and time again that separating became necessary to protect the child.
Interesting. All right. So where are we with the border wall, Attorney General? I mean, look, you come from a law enforcement perspective. I mean, you know that 80% of the heroin, 90% of the drugs come through our southern border. Why can't we get this message out, or am I missing something?
And Judge, this should be such a bipartisan issue because I've seen firsthand the drugs that have come into my state, into Florida, from Mexico. I've seen the assault rifles. We've seen the gangs, SIR 13. I've been to Mexico helping the good attorneys general from Mexico, training them on how to protect their country and work well with our country. So securing our borders, it's paramount for our homeland safety. And of course, helping great immigrants come to this country but in a legal way.
All right. How does the president in 2019 actually work with the Democrat majority? I mean, how is that going to, can he get the border wall with the Democrats?
Well, with Mrs. Pelosi, it's pretty clear that she's going to fight him every step of the way. But the president doesn't go to Nancy Pelosi to get what he needs. He goes to the American people. I expect that he'll continue making his case to the American people.
And I believe we have some questions from the audience, so I'm going to walk over here. All right. Thank you. All right. Question.
I'd just like to know about DACA. I don't agree with it. As an immigrant myself, I came to the U.S. the legal way. We went through a process. So I just want to know if this administration is going to give to the Dreamers citizenship like the left one. You see.
Where are you from?
I'm from Colombia.
And what did you do to become a citizen, or to become a legal immigrant, or to get a green card?
Well, first my mom came to the United States, and then we had to wait in Colombia like 6 years in order to come to the United States legal. We went through a process, we went through a criminal background, then we had to have an affidavit in order for us to come to the United States. The affidavit was, the purpose for the affidavit was for us not to live free out of the government. Like
right, that you had the ability to take care of yourself.
Take care of ourselves.
So, all right, Attorney General, I mean, how do you answer that, or Congress?
Well, I think we can both take this, but first, the president came up with a 4 pillars plan for immigration because we're a country made up of immigrants, and he understands that. Most of Congress understands that. But again, it has to be done in a legal way, just like you came into this country. And so he has a plan, I think, where almost 1.8 million people could become citizens.
And that's the DACA. Do you object to DACA? Is that what you were saying?
Yes, I object to DACA.
Well, let me try to get you to buy into it in a different way for a moment. Before we agreed, and the numbers were very different depending upon whose bill, to take those who were clearly brought here as children and had no other life, in other words, the victims of their parents' or family members' misconduct, before we offered a fix for that under President Trump's leadership, the Democrats were constantly using it to claim that we didn't care. When we brought up a DACA-only fix, when we brought up something to take care of the victims of the ambition of their parents, we suddenly discovered that the other side wanted nothing to do with that. They wanted comprehensive or nothing. If it does nothing else, it shows that no matter what we do, we're going to have to do it probably without the other side's help, because they don't really want a fix to illegal immigration. They want open borders. So I tell people, the reason we did it was because it was the right thing to help some of these victims. The reason we continue to push it is because it shows that the people who want sanctuary cities and open borders will settle for nothing less.
All right, and I have another question.
Recently, the New Jersey Attorney General put in force that the New Jersey local police and state police will not participate with ICE raids or participate with any kind of ICE enforcement. Is there anything that the federal government can do to make him cooperate with ICE?
Well, I can tell you in the state of Florida, that will never happen. We work hand in hand with ICE. I was with Homeland Security this week in Florida, and we work hand in hand with them, and they're great partners.
But Congressman, what, and I don't mean to interrupt, but what can, because we're running out of time, what can the federal government do?
Well, the president's been stymied a little bit in the short run by court decisions that made no sense. But in the long run, there's a combination of don't provide funds that only are there if there's a quid pro quo, if there's a balance between what the state is doing and what the federal government is doing. Write all of these programs of federal dollars to, in fact, require reciprocal behavior. As we do that, then the court would say, you're right, you don't have to give it if they don't cooperate. Currently, courts are ordering the president to give money even to states like California and New Jersey that are obstructing to the detriment of their own people.
All right. Thanks for those questions. And Attorney General Pam Bondi, thank you for all the work you do in Florida. The Congressman Issa is leaving us, as is the Attorney General. I want to thank you both for being here. Much more with the audience. And next, our surprise Justice political panel. Can you guess who they are?
Hi, everyone, and live from America's News headquarters, I'm Anna Koyman. President Donald Trump breaks his silence on the death of 2 immigrant children at the U.S.-Mexico border. In a pair of tweets earlier today, the president placed blame on the Democrats, saying it's, quote, their pathetic immigration policies, arguing that they encourage migrants to make the long journey. 2 young children, both from Guatemala, died earlier this month while in government custody. His comments came as Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen met with the medical staff at the border in Arizona. Meanwhile, Russian and Turkish officials agree to coordinate ground operations in Syria. Top leaders of the 2 countries met in Moscow. It comes as the U.S. prepares to withdraw all 2,000 troops from the country after President Trump declared victory over ISIS. I'm Anna Koyman, and now back to Justice with Judge Jeanine. For all your news headlines, head to foxnews.com.
Welcome back. It's time for our Justice political panel to come out, and I have a feeling the battle will be epic. Give a big Justice welcome to our TV host and author of Spygate, the attempted sabotage of Donald Trump, NRA TV host Dan Bongino, and Democrat strategist Ari Armash. All right, gentlemen.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
How you doing?
Yes.
You go to your appropriate
corners.
corners. I said appropriate. Not I don't watch fights that often. I'm usually in them. But anyway, all right, guys. Thanks for being here. We were talking about the economy for the first few minutes of the show, and the fact that it was going gangbusters, but it seems to have kind of sputtered a little bit toward the end of the month, middle end of the month. Is this good or bad news for the president?
Well, it's never great news when the stock market stagnates, but I think this is more reflective of an overvaluation of stocks. Listen, Judge, we printed money forever. People were seeking yield. They went into the market. There's just a mild correction, but all the other signs are good. Unemployment, productivity, it's all good. The president's been doing a great job. I don't think it's all bad.
Okay, so I suspect, Ari, you're going to say to me, when you see headlines that say we lost all the gains of 2018, that it's even worse than what Dan is saying.
No, the economy is doing great. The economy has picked up a lot of jobs, and guess what? It's going to do better. And I thank President Obama for having put in place a great economic recovery.
Obama?
That is Twitter proof. You can have a president who's so destabilizing, wakes up and tweets, but the economy is so robust that it doesn't flunk out. And thank you, President Barack Obama.
No. Listen, I love you. You're a good man. We had a great conversation back in the Green, but you are totally wrong on this. Barack Obama handed President Trump a disastrous economy.
Wrong.
He is the first president in American history to never reach 3% GDP growth in 1 year. That is unbelievable. Think about that. Jimmy Carter, all the horrible presidents we've had. Barack Obama, he is the gold medal award winner of awful economic presidents.
Wrong.
He's the only one.
He took over an economy that was in the tanks. The global economy was going to the toilet. And guess what? President Obama saved Detroit, saved the banking system, saved our financial resources. And guess what? The very reason today we're sitting here and an economic system exists is because of the hard work of those men and women. For 8 years, they recovered the American economy. And guess what? Donald Trump is not picking up the crumbs. Let's give him some credit. but we want to give
Hey,
credit
wait a minute. I
to the
got to say
economy.
something. I'm going to let him jump in. But wait a minute. Isn't President Obama, isn't he the one who said the manufacturing jobs are gone? They'll never come back to the United States. Get with it.
Well, guess what? Those jobs that exist in the 70s and the 80s are not going to come back. Did you see what happened to GM? By the way,
I'm not talking
GM
70s.
closed down.
Back up.
GM
I'm
closed-
not talking
but your
70s and 80s.
your
I'm
party,
talking,
your party. Go ahead,
My
Judge.
party?
Go ahead, Judge.
Well, but I'm talking about when Obama was the president. He said they're not coming back. Donald Trump isn't even in office. He's got Carrier and everybody
well,
else
there are two
coming
kinds of presidents.
back.
Presidents who lie to get votes in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania.
Go ahead,
and presidents
Dan.
who don't. But just one quick
Dan,
point. Your party wanted
that's
Detroit to go
enough. Dan.
bankrupt. Your party wanted Detroit to go
way
bankrupt, and
off
President
on the
Obama
numbers.
didn't let that
wanted
happen.
them to go bankrupt?
Yes, you wanted Detroit to
Dan.
go
I really have a hard time talking about lying in presidents from the if you like your plan, you can keep your plan guy. So I'm going to take a hard pass on that one. But
We're talking about
every economy, from the deep recessions to the recession. No, this is a fact. We have recovered from every single one. Obama doesn't deserve a cookie because somehow we recovered from a recession. The numbers, though, speak for themselves. The worst recovery from a recession in modern American history, based on growth rates, which is what every economist uses,
Not true.
Is
Not true.
I
Not
know
true.
that. What are the numbers? I
Not
know
true.
the numbers.
You
What
are
the
talking.
numbers?
You got to give context. So you can't say no. You can't say we had. This is again like the bayonet and sort of the conversation about we had more horses and bayonets back in World War II. You got to give context. The president of the United States, when he took over January 21st, 2009, took over a disaster domestically and globally.
Yes.
And he tried to fix it, and he did a very, very good job.
He did it worse than any
about
other
lies,
president in American
you named
history.
You named one misinterpreted statement by President Obama.
No, that wasn't a misinterpretation.
Trump
It was the lie
lies
of the
day
year.
in and day out. He wakes up and lies day in and
That
day
was the lie
out.
of the year.
Trump lies day in and day out.
But do you know what you have to do to get lie of the year?
And we're going to get to his lies more when this Democratic House takes over.
No,
And I'm
but
looking forward to
wait,
it. It's going to be a very,
but you
very,
haven't
very
refuted the
tough year
question.
for Donald J. Trump.
Ari, let me ask you a question. Why are you looking forward to that?
Justice
Your
gotta be meted out,
party
Judge.
is the
Justice gotta be meted
obstruct-
out.
I know that. I did it for 30 years. Your party is the obstruct and resist and don't let anything good happen. And now what you're promising the American people is the next 2 years of nothing but going after Donald Trump. We elected him. Stay out of
Well,
it.
you
And
had the
until you
House.
can prove some
You
Russia
had the
collusion,
House.
go back to your hate-filled leftist, really
Okay.
progressive
All right.
corners.
Oh, punchline over. You had the House, you had the Senate, you had the Supreme Court, and you had the president for 2 years. You guys did not achieve a thing. You know why? The Republicans are bad at governing. Get out of our way. Republicans are bad at governing.
This is from the party of Obamacare.
Economic
this is from
recovery.
the party of the IRS
Healthcare,
targeting.
economic recovery,
Healthcare.
healthcare. This is from the party of a guy who sits down with Kim Jong-un and gives everything on a platter. And guess what?
At least he didn't give him $500 million in cash like he gave the Iranians. Right? At least he
giving
just
him
gave him a
votes.
handshake, right? After they chanted death to America.
Only
We
one
forget
man
that one.
emptied out
I love how
Guantanamo,
misinformed
and
this
he's
is.
your hero to
I love
let them
how
go back on
misinformed this
the war field. Anyway, Dan Bongino, Ari Aramen, thanks so much, Aramesh. And we have a lot of young people in the audience tonight. Do you think they identify with liberal or conservatives? We'll learn the answer and meet our new surprise guests. Justice is back in a moment.